Hey, Kyle Querec here, and today we have a very special guest. He's a composer, a producer, a drummer, an educator. He is Gray Kalember. He's a pro's pro, and it's today here on Music Minded. Gamma. All right, Gray, question number one. Was there a moment, was it a band, was it a place, was it a friend when music hit you? Do you remember that?
You know, not specifically because it's always been sort of top of mind for me. The story I always go to that it's a vivid memory for me is I remember being like, I want to say it was like in the first grade maybe or kindergarten, like very young. I had like one of these 45 record players that were like all in one, where you open the lid and the speakers were built into it,
Oh,
like
yeah.
like solid 70s like nostalgia, right? So I had this little stack of 45s that was like mostly like leftovers from my parents, or I don't know where they even came from, and I was kind of obsessed with this thing. So like I would play these records and listen to it. I remember one day sitting in my room with my friends. My friends were all like, "Yeah, come on, man, we want to go out and play baseball." I'm like, "Wait, before we go outside, check out this tune." I was like
Yes.
playing these songs, and like I was a super young kid, so I was already kind of like becoming out of sync with the mainstream in terms of my focus and obsession with music.
What was the time where you thought to yourself, yeah, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And you just answered that, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I just had a sense when I was, I mean, middle school is the time, because since middle school it's, like I remember I can tell you my career aspirations. When I was in grade school, I wanted to be a garbage man. I wanted to ride on the back of the garbage truck and like I'd like follow the garbage truck up and down the street on my tricycle and like pretend to empty garbage cans into the back of my tricycle. So that was my first job. And then when I got actually I guess there was four of them, because then I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. I had no idea
What
what that
what
was.
kid says that?
I just thought it sounded cool. I heard that there was something called a plastic surgeon, and I wanted to be that, right? So,
Oh,
so then I when I was in like late elementary school, I wanted to be a journalist, because I had, I think mostly because the influence of a teacher I had, who would like made a big deal about my writing. He said, "Your writing is really great. You're really a creative individual," and I was like, "Yeah, I think I want to be a journalist." But then shortly after that, I just landed on music. I'm like, it was all I really thought about in my free time. I mean, wasn't a healthy, balanced, thing for me. I think that there's a little bit of obsession that goes along with this, and it's just that. And so I can't tell you the exact pinpointed moment, but I can tell you that's for sure the time. By the time I got to middle school, I was just I'm all in on this. I'm going to figure out some way to do this. And obviously my first inclination was I was going to be a rock star, right? I wanted to, I
sure.
think that's what was part of the appeal. Like I love to play. I was really into, rock music and wanted to do that. Um, but I didn't necessarily think to myself like, oh, I want to be a famous rock star. Like, to me, it really has never been about fame or the pursuit of any of the sort of trappings.
Yeah.
I like to describe myself as a true believer when it comes to music. Like,
Oh, that's
I mean,
great, man. Yeah.
I love music so much. I just wanted to play it or be involved with it in some way. And I had that kind of outlook. Certainly by the time I was in high school, I was like, listen, of course, plan A is I'm going to be Ozzy's next drummer, but plan B is, anything else. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I wake up in the morning, I hear music all day long coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
I need to be involved with that somehow, even though I had no idea how it worked, where it was made, who these people were that were doing this, how that any I had, I was living in Wisconsin. I didn't know
Right.
anything about the music business, or I'm like, this is just what I need to be involved with. I wound up filling in with my brother's band, which was like sort of an established regional band. They played all over the place. But their drummer had appendicitis. And so he was like out of commission. And so they're like, "You want to come play this gig? We're playing in Iowa." So me and my mom got in the car. I learned three sets of music on a boom box in the car on the way to the gig, and played this gig. I mean, and I was a literal child. I was probably 15 years old at the
Wow.
time.
So that guy was your Drew Bledsoe. And then you came
Yeah.
in with Tom Brady and never
Right.
looked back.
Yeah,
Poor guy.
that's it. So their drummer never came back. He ended up playing. He's another great friend of mine, a fantastic musician. He switched to guitar, like just a freak show on the guitar.
Right.
You should be interviewing him, not me. But
I will.
but I did all these shows with these guys, and these guys were, like, I mean, my brother was 5 years older than me. Other guys in the band were older than him, so they were
That's a
like
lot.
established, all the local scene guys that were like, and I just felt like I that's when I thought, like, I'm doing this. And again, the response was great. Everyone, people were telling me how great I was and all this stuff, and so that was very, affirming. Like I felt like, yeah, I can do this, and so I think that's really where it all started for me.
You got to give me a hell gig. A hell
Hell
gig.
gig.
Yeah. We
I
want to
played.
crawl under a chair. Here we go.
Yeah, I played in when I was in Boston at Berkeley. I played with this speed metal band, and and I definitely, I love the metal. You know me,
Oh
I
yeah.
definitely love it. But I knew that this band was definitely not for like mass consumption. This was a very, like, it
Like a
was a
legit
legit
speed metal. Yeah,
speed
yeah.
metal band, right? So we went to play this gig, and it was like a it was like six bands playing or whatever. And like we're sitting at this club, and I'm looking at the other bands playing, and they're playing like, pop tunes or sort of whatever.
Oh,
And I'm thinking, like, yeah, this is not gonna end well. So we got up on the stage and we played. By the end of our first, as soon as we started playing, I could see, like, the first person stands up, puts their coat on, next person leaves. By the time we were done with our very first song, it was us and the wait staff, and that was we emptied the place out, like, just like that. Like, it took 4 minutes for this place to go from 300 people to zero.
what does the future hold for music? Horrible question.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, it's, again, I think it depends on how you think about music and what music really means. I think that, humans, I feel like, have been making music since the dawn of human consciousness. Wherever you want to put that, wherever you want to put the pin in evolutionary history, it's like, this is when we went from, being just mammals to being whatever human means. I have a feeling at that point, somebody banged out a groove on a log and somebody else jumped up and was like, yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that it's been going on for a very, very long time. So, and I think that it's going to be going on as long as we're breathing, right? So I think there's this all big push now when people talk about, like, AI with music, and like, we think, like, oh, AI is going to, overtake, music making. I don't know that that'll ever be the case. Again, there's the music business, which I can't really even speak to that at all, because the business is insane, and, like, the fashion, it comes onto, like, fashion, right? So we may very well hit a period where AI music is all the rage, and that's what sells, and it seems like on the top of the charts, it's all AI, and you need to be a programmer to make music.
Wow, that's
But I can
terrifying.
get but
Oh,
I can guarantee you that, like, in every city, in every corner of the world, there's going to be some kid with a bucket, banging out a groove. And so it's not going to, humans are never going to stop doing this. So I think the future is assured for and I think that there's musical genius. If the internet shows us anything right now, it's just how much incredible amounts of musical talent there is on this planet. I mean, like, you think about, like, who's famous and and what the names people know. It's like, that's like a,
yeah.
that's like froth on the top of, like, an ocean of talent and skill, when it comes to musical ability. So, um, I don't, it's very difficult to know what the future of the industry is. I think we're in this strange transitional period now where I think being a professional is becoming, it's always been very hard. I think it's going to be only more difficult. And I think the sort of democratization, if you want to call it, of technology, the fact that anyone can produce, 40,000 tracks every day get uploaded to Spotify. That's the most recent statistic I heard.
That's
I've heard
insane.
I've heard bigger numbers than that, but the one that I thought was very credible, I forget the source now, but 40,000 tracks every day, new tracks.
Wow.
So, I think it's hard to stand out in that. It really is. And I think, and especially when you consider, like, what the public accepts as being standout, like, the masses will be like, oh, this is a really great song. And you listen to it and you think, like, yeah, that's not a really great song by any sort of objective, musical measure that you want to use. Like, I'm sure you've seen the cartoon from the New Yorker with the music producer, and he's got the band behind the glass, and he's like, "That's great, fellas. Let's try one more. This time with more emphasis on creativity, talent, musicianship, intonation, originality." And it's like, so yeah, that's kind of what it is, right? So you get the laundry list of objective things that we as musicians understand about music, and then there's the auto-tuned crap that you hear
Oh,
that's like at the pinnacle of what society thinks is great musicianship. So
I love that you said that it is the future is assured, because that really
yeah,
comes from your heart. Like, yeah, the business, yeah, we're going to figure it out. It's going to be harder, whatever. It's still going to exist, but music is always going to be very important to a lot of people.
I think so. I think it's always it's an immediate thing. Like you can walk into, I'm living in Maryland now. I can walk into like 100 restaurants on a Saturday night, and there's some band playing, and they're just killing it.
What would you say to 22-year-old young buck Greg Kalember who runs a 4.35? What would you say to him coming out? Like, really, like, what advice? Because you've done it. I knew you when you were much younger and you were always in it. What would you say? What would not what would you do differently, but what would you just do now if you were coming out at 22?
I mean, honestly, what I would do now is I'm not really the one to answer that question, because I'm not in that time and place. I think that's kind of up to it's up to certainly every generation, and with the smaller than that, every individual has got to figure it out. Like, my path through the music industry, I've had a fantastic career. I'm just nothing but grateful for the career that I've had. Like, I don't know another soul who's followed the same kind of path that I've had, right?
Right.
And other people who I know who are in this business, they all have like their unicorn experiences that only they could have done that path. There's no other,
And
like
and Craig,
they can say like,
that's why we're doing the show to talk to people like you. That it's a unicorn thing and it's fascinating. I'm sorry, keep going.
yeah, no, it's just the way that other people that I know made it with their success. Like, I probably wouldn't have made it in that, if you'd given me the same opportunities and put me in the same, it wouldn't have worked out for me that way, because it's this weird fit of like your personality, the team that builds around you, the network that you build, you have to fit into that, like, just right.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, but it's also, again, the thing I tell my own students is that it's not like I alluded to it before. It's not easy now. Wasn't easy 30 years ago. You can't look back 30 years and be like, "Oh, you guys had it so easy." Then no, it was ridiculous. Like, it's preposterous to go into music for a career. It's a completely irrational thing to do.
You're a super talented guy. A lot of people know you as a great drummer, composer, producer. So I'm going to ask you this. This is your favorite question. And bear with me. I want your three favorite drummers. I want your three favorite film composers and your three favorite rock bands, if you would, sir.
Obviously, I like, the classics, like, some of my favorite scores are like Psycho, Bernard Herrmann, like the Psycho score is just, is awesome. Like, I actually enjoy listening to. I'm a huge fan of Danny Elfman. Like, I like Oingo Boingo. I like his point of view. I think it's sort of quirky and fun.
Yeah.
And I'll give you one film that I really like the music to, and I don't even know who wrote it. I think it might have been I don't even know who wrote it, but you ever see the film The Fantastic Mr. Fox?
No, but I know what you're
It's like
talking about.
it's
Yeah.
sort of a funky animated
Okay.
film. Love the music. I just thought, like, the music just works so well. It just brought me in. I really enjoyed the music from that.
All
Um,
right.
so favorite drummers, man.
I
That's like,
know.
it's a
It's the
you
best
got-
question. I know people hate it, but that's what everyone. Don't you want to know that? Like, don't you want to hear Marshall Faulk hear his top three running backs of all time? I want to hear
yeah,
it. So I'm
yeah.
just curious.
I would have needed like 6 months to prepare for that question, but I'm going to say, well, I'm going to go with the low hanging fruit, and
Yeah.
Neil Peart, right? I mean, he's like, the reason I play drums is
Yeah.
probably because of Neil Peart, and like listening to him when I was young, and so just from the influence alone,
Yeah.
I gotta throw him out there. I'm going to go with Billy Cobham,
Yes, sir.
because scary, just the fright, just because I'm terrified of the man, and
Big dude.
he
Yeah.
so like, I gotta give him a shout out with Vinny Appice, also because he's underappreciated. No one ever mentions Vinny. I don't even know
Yes.
if you even know who he is,
Oh, I
but
do.
he
Yeah.
again, another very big influence on the way that I play. I always say that like you could boil down most of what I do, if you just analyze like Vinny Appice's playing on the first two Dio albums, throw in a little bit of Neil Peart, and then figure out how to do all that in like an 11/8. That's kind of like that's kind of where I come from. I'm gonna go Iron Maiden.
Yes, sir.
Because Maiden rules, and so like if you don't agree with that, I don't know what else to tell you.
All right, number
Um,
two.
I'm gonna go with Genesis. Uh,
Oh, old
Genesis,
Genesis with Gabriel.
old Gabriel Genesis, and some of the transitional stuff. Like I'm definitely not like an Invisible Touch guy or Susu Studio or any of that. That's bad for me.
What's number
But
three?
Genesis, number three, rock band. God, man, this is again so many bands that I can leave off. Who am I gonna call out? All right, I'm gonna go Mastodon.
Food, sports, or travel? Pick one of those, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Food, sports, or travel. Let's go sports.
I
know
knew
you're
you would,
sports.
dude. I love you. I knew
Yeah.
out of all the people, there's one person that asked that last season, and you'll probably be the only one this season. If you're starting, this is going to throw you. If you're starting a secondary of all time, who are your two safeties and who are your two corners?
All time.
I mean, people that you've seen. It doesn't need to be a guy in a paper mache helmet from 1913.
Yeah. Well, I mean, safeties. I guess I could probably go with Ronnie Lott. Yeah, I'm gonna go Homer. I'm going Leroy Butler. Corners. I mean, how do you not go with Revis? I mean, Revis is like, I I mean, the guy was just ridiculous, so
Yeah, he was. For that 5 year span, he was untouchable.
yeah, I think Revis. And here's a weird one. I'm going to go with Deion Sanders.
Number nine. Number nine.
So listen, man, this is the last question. Thanks again for joining us. I loved hearing your story. Can you tell us, what you're doing? Do you have anything you want to promote? Anything in the future that you're doing? Anything that you just did? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, mostly I've made this transition now to teaching, right? So I'm teaching at UMBC. I teach music technology there, which I'm absolutely loving. But mostly I've been doing like just, I've actually had a resurgence in advertising. I've been doing a lot of advertising music.
Great, man.
I think, people thought the advertising industry was dead a few years ago, that no one was ever going to write original music for ads anymore. But then, and I think the reason they thought that is because 40,000 tracks get uploaded to Spotify every day.
Right.
Why am I going to hire this guy to write my music? But I remember at the time thinking, and at first it seemed kind of scary, like a lot of gigs went away and a lot of stuff was just getting licensed and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then it became 40,000 tracks are getting uploaded to Spotify every day. Like, I don't have time to go through all this music, so I'm going to hire this guy to like write something for me. So I feel like it's kind of gone like
On full circle.
back full circle, where now it's, I mean, like how difficult is it, and I've even had clients say like, is this really the music we want to use? Because like, think about all the music that's out there. It's like, okay, yeah, great. Think about all the music that's out there. It's like, take your time.
I can't imagine being like a 19-year-old kid, hopefully talented with purpose, and going into a classroom and having someone like you teach. And I also know your ability to write and to play drums. You are a unicorn. Dude, thank you for joining us so much. What a treat. We'll have some links underneath as far as where you're teaching, and we'll keep in contact if there's anything to promote. But I'm glad you're writing. I'm glad you're teaching, because the world needs more Greg Kalember. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate it, brother. I
All right,
appreciate you
man.
doing this. This is great. This was fun.
I love it. And thanks again for doing this, man.
Yeah, I love the channel. I love what you're doing. I love that you I recognize the irrational love that you're doing this for. It's like, I mean, I'm sure you're the big fat checks that are rolling in from this are probably
Huge.
probably making it all worthwhile. But
Along with that 6-cent check from the Philippines. That's a true story.
yeah,
Okay.
nice. Yeah, so
All right.
so I appreciate you, brother, and this is cool. I'm glad we did this.
Thank you, man. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, brother. What a fantastic interview. Greg Kalember, composer, producer, drummer, educator. If he's on your session, if you're making music, you made the right decision. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Querec. You've been watching Music Mind.